Hello folks, welcome back to the channel where we dive deep into the code ocean. Today we will strapping in a JavaScript adventure where we talk about for loops. Wherever you are a coding beginner setting sail on your coding journey or a seasoned captain navigating through complex algorithms, this video is your compass to mastering the art of looping in JavaScript. So grab your favorite code editor, hit the subscribe if you haven't already, and let's set sail into the fascinating world of JavaScript for loops. The first loop that probably you learn if you want to learn JavaScript is the for loop. The for loop is pretty simple. It's a for that create a new variable that contain the index of the loop. Then need a condition to understand when the loop must stop, and then you have to do something on every iteration, and basically is an incrementation or a decrementation of a variable. In this case, the for start from the first element and arrive to the last element. You can also basically go from the last one and go back to the first one, and so on. In this case, this example is pretty simple, and I create a for to iterate over a list of number, a string, or a list of string. As you can see, the approach is pretty the same. So you have to create your for, your index to iterate over the list, understand the condition to stop the for, and on every iteration increment the index. And the result, as you can see, is pretty simple. If I go to the terminal and run the first example, as you can see, the first for loop print in the console the list of the number, the second one print in the console the list of the char of the string, and the last one print in the console the list of the element inside of the array of, in this case is an array of string. It's also important to remember that the for loop is the most performance one in the JavaScript ecosystem. So if you have to pay attention to the performance, please remember to use a for loop and not a for of loop or other kind of stuff like filter, map, and so on. The second for that probably you learn if you want to learn JavaScript is the for of loop. For of loop permit you to iterate over a list of string, a list in general, but also over an iterator. Basically, if you iterate over using a for loop over an array, the array implemented the iterator pattern out of the box, and this is why you can iterate the array using the for of loop. Basically, the for loop use a simple syntax that in this case use for, then you can use let or const, that and then the name of the variable that contain the element for the iteration, and of is the keyword that indicate over what, the list or the iterator that you want to iterate using your for of loop. And as you can see, the syntax is pretty simple in this case. So for, const, and of, and the array, the list, or whatever you want. For instance, in this case is a pretty different. As you can see, the for of run over a new class called new range that accept 1 and 2. The range is a simple class in this case that accept a start and an end, and implement the iterator protocol. In this case, using this symbol.iterator, you can create a function that allow to the for of loop to understand, okay, how to get the next value of your iteration. In this case, using the yield operator, you can also use the the yield to return the value and wait until the next ask for the next element for the for a loop. But by the way, for a loop basically is used for synchronous handling. For instance, you have to iterate over a string, over a list of string, or a list of object, or a list of element, or a synchronous iterator. And it's important to remember this because for of loop perform synchronous operation. So just to let you understand better, you can run the example. So node source for of loop. As you can see in this case, the first one show the number of the list of the number. The second one show the char of a string. The second one show the element inside of this array of string. And the last one show all the elements returned by this iterator, the range. In this case, the range is from 1 to 5, and the number is all the number are from 1 to 5, as you can see. It's important. Basically, for of loop, it's perfect if you work in synchronous code, and it's probably the easiest way to understand better what happened in your code. It's the syntax is more clearer than the simple for, but there is a small trade-off that the for of loop is slower than the simple for in JavaScript. But it's fantastic if you have to iterate over 20 element, 10 element. For of loop, it's perfect. It's perfect. You don't have to pay attention too much to for of loop or for in this case. But sometimes you have to understand when it's better to use the for of or the simple for. But now it's time to jump in the for await loop. For await of loop is created to iterate over async iterator, but in the last period I saw a lot of people use for await loop in the wrong way. So this is the reason why I start to think about this video that you are watching now. So let's start from the right use of for await of loop. So basically, in this case, I create a function that is called range with delay dataset from a to, that is the range of the range, so from 1 to 5 basically, and the milliseconds. So every how much time I have to call the next element. And as you can see here, there is this class, this function implement the async iterator. And as you can see, the async iterator permit you to get the new value, and using the while you can understand if the current element is less than the 2, and if so, you can use the yell and wait for the time and then return the value. Pretty simple. This is the right way, the correct way to use the for await. So just to let you know, if I go to the console and I call now the code, as you can see, the for await work perfectly, and after 1 millisecond call the first element, call the range and get the first element. The second time call the async iterator and get the second value, and so on until the end. This is the right way to use the for await loop, okay? But sometimes I saw also people that use for await in the wrong way. For instance, let me get the previous example. For instance, you can call the for of await using an array of number, for instance. And this is work. It's not a problem. JavaScript under the hood use the for off for you because does a fallback in the not asynchronous iterator. So for instance, as you can see, you can use the for await with an array, but technically speaking, this is wrong because you are creating an async stuff where you don't need it. So it's important when you have a synchronous collection, you can iterate over it using a simple for off loop. For off loop, please. Don't use a for await of. And the second example is this. You can use the for off, the for await of, also with a list of promises. For instance, in this case, I call an array that contain, in this case, a list of number 2000, 1000, and 3000. And I call for each element the delay function. In this case, the function is the function that have the millisecond and the value. In this case, the delay will be called with the first element as the number has I passed in the delay, and the second is the index. What happened here? If I call the script now, as you can see, is this. So as you can see, the for await works, so it's not a problem. So the map call the promise, okay, and as you can see, the first promise has a timeout of 2 seconds, the second after 1 second, and the last one after 3 seconds. What happened here that is this. So as you can see, the second promises will be is resolved, but wait, because the first promise is the promise with 2 seconds for the timeout. So until the first promise has not resolved, you have to wait for the element of the for await of. In this case, for instance, the first element is 0 because the first element with the value is the value with the index 1, with the index 0. So you have to wait until the first will be resolved. And as you can see here, this is the console log that you can see here. Then, as you can see, immediately the for await call the resolve value for the second promise, the promise with the 1 millisecond in the timeout. And as you can see here, this is 0 and 1. And then only after 3 seconds, when the last the promise has been resolved, the for await show the last value. As you can see, the for await works, but probably it's not what is expected for you, because probably you want to run before the first promise with and await for 2 seconds, the second one and wait for 1 second, and the last one and wait for 3 seconds. But as you can see, you can use for await also with promise, but you have to pay attention because the order of the result of for await basically is not guaranteed the resolve sequence of your promise. But before closing, I want also to give you the last example to understand why using the for await of with the promise could be a real risk for your code base. So if I go back and get this example, has a problem. The last delay is 0. As you can see in the delay, I already check if the timeout is 0, in this case. The promise return an error after x millisecond. In this case, the error is millisecond should be greater than 0, but it's equal to 0 in this case. What happened in this case? In this case, I can clear the terminal and run again. As you can see, this is what happened. The first, you haven't received any result in the console except the error, because in this case, the execution of the promise, the third promise, it's immediately and run an error. So as you can imagine, in this case, promise raise an error and the error is not catched in this case. And obviously you have the other promise ongoing, but the process in this case exit because there is an unhandled exception. You can fix it using try catch if you want, and pass it here and run again. As you can see, now we have handle, because I only use a console error, you have handle the for await. But in reality, as you can see, it's not what you expected, because probably the expectation for you is, okay, I want to wait 3 seconds for the execution of the first promise, then I want to wait 1 second, and so on and so on. So please, I know for await it's powerful, but the only correct way to use it is with the async iterator. If you don't have an async iterator, please don't use for await, but try to use if you have a list of promise, try to use promise.all, promise.init, promise.all settle, or promise.any. I have a video about that. If you want, you can find it in my YouTube channel, but please use for await only when it's necessary. So I hope you enjoyed this part of the video, because I think sometimes people forgot how for work in JavaScript, and I noticed this in the last project that I work. And now it's time to jump in the conclusion. And that's wrap up our JavaScript for loop adventure. I hope you enjoyed the journey through the loops and turn of this essential JavaScript feature. Remember, wherever you are a junior coder just starting or a seasoned pro, optimize your loops. Mastering the for loops is like having a powerful tool in your coding arsenal. If you found value in today's video, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe for more coding gems, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on our coding expedition. Thanks for joining me today, and until next time, happy coding. Bye bye!